Right. Hello. Welcome back. John Michael, thanks for showing up on time. Appreciate it. I know other folks might be trickling in or watching the video, which again is totally fine. If you're feeling like this is really fast, that's the idea. It's self-paced. Stick with it. Keep watching the videos. Keep asking questions. Stay in touch. We are in our last week. This is week 6 of 6. So welcome back. Um, let's get rolling on our app completion, and then we're going to do some advanced topics on Thursday. So today we're going to wrap up and finish up our last bits of the application. We've been building our to-do list application. And next time we're going to finish up with version control systems, ways to collaborate, and some kind of higher level concepts, things to do next from here, where to go from this boot camp and whatnot. But today we're going to be completing our app, right? So we have already built 2 out of our 4 CRUD operations, the create and read. We have our update and delete done. So we've done the top 2. We're going to do the bottom 2 today. Update is going to be where we start, and it's going to be largely a continuation of what we did with read. There's going to be a few differences, but it's really just going to be kind of building on those same patterns, right? Doing a lot of the same sort of stuff. But we will do delete also very quickly because it's pretty much the same thing once again for a 4th time. And then if we have time at the end of class, we can refactor quickly and do class-based views. We've been doing everything in function-based views, so functional views. But the other option in Django is to write classes instead of functions the way we have been. It's in the documentation as the next step. So if we don't get to that in class, that's totally fine. We can leave that for homework between now and next time to refactor into classes and use those. And so we can go through, really make sure we get all the points covered on the functional views, answer any questions, make sure that we get that running, make sure we get this app finished up well. Before we do that, any questions for anybody that is in the class live? Michael or John Michael, any questions from you guys?
No question.
No, nothing. All right. Great. Then that is it for slides. Let's go get hands-on with what we're doing. So again, we've already talked about what we've done up to now, which is, if we're back on our site, we have our home page, we have our about page, and we have our to-do list, which this is the read operation that shows all of our to-do tasks that are in our to-do list task database. And we can add tasks, we can make new ones, right? We have this form that pops up. We can fill it in with whatever we like and give it a due date of even sometime in the past, but let's make it in the future just because we're gonna be nice about that. We give ourselves plenty of time. And so those are the places where we were. So now what we're going to do is, following the design that we haven't actually made. We haven't made the design, right? We didn't go through that exercise, but let's assume we spent tons of time on this, and through very thorough research, we've come up with this question statement of, okay, what are we trying to solve here with our next implementation, right? What are we trying to do? We're trying to update one of these things, right? So from here, who remembers us talking about user stories? User stories?
Yeah, that's the path of like what the user is going to do, right? Like
Right.
how they're going to use the actual um like product.
Right. Okay. Very close. So it's a formulaic way of approaching exactly this sort of problem. When you are designing the implementation of one of these CRUD operations, you can do something like starting out with a statement as a user, I want to, and then fill in with an affirmative statement of a very simple thing you want to do. So in this case, we're on this page, and as a user, I want to update one of these tasks. So that's the problem we're trying to solve. We're trying to make this to where we can interact here with this. There's all kinds of ways we could do this. We could put buttons anywhere we like. We could have totally separate pages to go to this to do the updates. We do all sorts of different things. But again, through our extensive research in our design phase, we know the users tend to just like poke at the name of things and expect stuff to happen. So in our design, what we're going to do is we're going to add a link function to this in the same way that we've done things before. We're just going to wrap this text in an A tag, an anchor tag, that's going to point to our update form. So we're going to follow the same pattern that we did for the new task form when we did add a task down here. We're going to reuse that same form and just add a piece of logic to the top so we don't have to rewrite an entire form from scratch. And then we're going to put our form behind this button because that's what users tend to do. They click on the thing that they want to do. Right. So any questions about that before we get rocking and rolling on our concept of operations here? Sort of where we're headed. Nice. Okay, there shouldn't be a lot for us to do in the console, but because we should always start anyway with our best practice, what's the first thing that we should do every time we get started on any developing work?
Activate our virtual environment.
Yes, activate the virtual environment. So from our kind of home directory with the tilde, right? So we're at /home/username/ and we're going to do source, the name of our virtual environment, whatever the path is to that. I have it here in this directory, and then bin activate. Sorry, all the Zoom stuff in the way on my side. Using tab complete to make sure that we are in the right spot. Hit enter. Got the name pop up in parentheses on the left, and then we'll change directory using CD into the my site top level project directory. Clear. Cool. So we're going to start here, even though most of the work we're going to do is going to be following the patterns that we followed in the past through the files, and we don't have a lot that we're going to be doing on this side. It's a good habit to do every time. So I'm going to open up our file GUI in another tab so we can bounce around in the files that we need to make and edit and adjust. And we're going to follow the same pattern that we have implementing the first two CRUD operations, which, anybody remember what those 4 steps are? It's the first thing we do.
What was the question? Sorry?
What the implementing CRUD, we follow 4 steps generally. What are the 4 steps? When we did create, we followed these 4 steps. When we did read, we followed these 4 steps. We start by writing what? A view. That jogging memory a little bit. We start by writing a view. Then we map a URL. Then we do something with a template. Either we make a template or we adjust a template. And then we add our navigation, right? So we have to go through those steps once again. We have to write our view, which is going to be a functional view in our application level. So to do views.py is where we're going to get started, right? So we're going to write a view for our create or our update function.
So it goes view, URL, and then navigation.
Template,
and then
template,
navigation.
then navigation. Yeah, you either have to, either make or update some sort of template.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yep. All right. So here in our views.py, this is where we've done all the views up to now. Got a few import statements and whatnot. We're going to scroll down to past our view tasks. This is our general one that we started with, and here's our create task. We're going to follow very similar patterns, but we're going to get started up underneath this. Give ourselves some space. Scroll down a little bit so we're not distracted by these things. And we're going to do, as we have in the past, since we're doing functional views, using DEF to define our view. And we say update underscore woohoo task. And as we have in the past, we're going to handle an input of some kind, and we've done a request because, again, think of the HTTP interaction between the browser with a client interacting with it. We think of the client side, browser side is sending a request that has all kinds of information in it, including the URL that it wants to go to in the request. So we're going to handle some of those things in the request here, like we have with all of our views. This time, we're also going to pass a second parameter here, a second argument called PK. Now, if we think, I'll give you a hint that it has to do with databases. What does PK stand for, do you think? What could PK stand for? It's one of the defining characteristics of a relational database. This is an abbreviation for that idea. All right, it's called a primary key. So there's a primary key. It's one of the things that identifies uniquely one row in a relational database. It's one of the main parts of what a relational database is uses to structure itself, I guess, and look up the data, right? So primary key is going to be passed to this view. So we're going to pass this as part of our call when we click on it. So we have to add that to the link at some point. But right now, it's going to be included in the input for our function. So I'm going to hit enter, move down, and we're one indentation in. Remember, that's important in Python. So we're moving over one indentation, which is 4 spaces or 1 tab. And we're going to do task, which is going to be a variable name. We could call this whatever we like, but this is going to be representative of the thing that we are doing. And we're going to grab something out of our database, which is going to be one specific task. And if you recall when we talked about SQL, actually, John Michael, you kind of know SQL. Do you remember the 3 parts of SQL that we highlighted as being important?
The read,
select,
select,
from
and table,
and where, right?
Oh, where?
So
Sorry.
select is like what data, from which table, where the data meets these criteria, you give us some kind of filter, right? So this piece that we're going to write here is this thing we've done before. We pull something out of the database. This is the way that we're going to write that SQL concept, but in Python. So we write the first 2 pieces in a slightly different order. Because we're in Python, we're going to refer to the table, the from piece comes first because it's a model, which is in a Python terms a class, which we do pull with full capitalized letter. That's the word, full letter, capitalized letter. And then we do some sort of attribute on it, right? So we do the objects. And this is the select piece. The objects is the what data. So we want to get the objects from this table, and then we're going to give it some sort of way of filtering this. And there's a bunch of ways of doing this. The way that we're going to do it is with the built-in method get. And get expects an ID to be passed, which is also this unique identifying thing, which for us is going to be the primary key. And PK is just a really common way to refer to a primary key. This, again, this is fairly arbitrary since we're defining an input. We could call this whatever we like, but this is sort of convention to refer to the primary key by PK, or like as PK. And then it is sometimes referred to as the ID. These things are interchangeable, but this is generally why it's called one versus the other. PK kind of by convention, and then it'll often be referred to as ID when you're talking about the one specific thing. All right, so in this line, we have this piece that's written in Python, but it does boil down to SQL at some point. That's what Django is doing for us. Instead of having to go and be explicit, do that interaction with our database, this is all we have to write. And we've stored our specific task, one task, in this. Cool. So now what we're going to do from there, on the same indentation level as that variable call, we have to handle our form just like we did before in the request. We have to check the method of the request, see if it's post method, do the form checking and all those sorts of things, just like we did. Because this scenario, the first scenario we're going to write for is when someone comes to our site, fills out the updated information, and is ready to send it back. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to do that with an if statement, as we have in the past. So we say if request dot method is equal to, so 2 equal signs, and then as a string, post. We'll put it all caps, and then a colon to close off this statement of conditional logic. And then we're going to jump inside this. So we're 2 indentations in, right? So we're still inside of our function. We've gone 1 indentation over for all these definitions so far. Now we're inside our if logic, so we're 2 indentations in. And we're going to do the same thing we did when we created our object or our task. We're going to do a form variable, or variable named form, right? Arbitrary name, but it's useful to call it something that we can recognize as we go through. And we're going to use that same task form class that we did before, that we used in the past. It's the exact same fields that we need to grab from our forms.py file, so we don't need to go and remake that stuff. We can just use it again right here. We're going to pass it, as we did before, the request.post information. And this is going to bind that information to the form so that it aligns to the fields that we set up in our forms.py class. And now we need to run a check to see if the form data is valid before we save it into our database. So we're going to have another internal if. We're on the same 2 levels of indentation that we were before when we specified our form variable. So we're going to do if form dot, it's a built-in method to all forms that Django has. It's great. So lowercase is underscore valid, open and close parentheses, no parameters, no input. And this is just going to check to see if the data is valid data. So we go inside here. This is the place where you can do all sorts of things if you wanted to. If you wanted to expand this, handle this form data, chop it up, send it off some other place, do some custom algorithms to it, just like we did with our JavaScript. You could connect it to your own scripts that are in the project structure in some sort of static directory, just like we did with our JavaScript. But we're not going to do any of that. We're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to save it. So if we have valid form data, we're just going to save whatever updated information the user has given us. So we're going to do form.save. And again, if you're making this more complicated, adding more things to it, this form.save will be the last step, and you just put in between this is valid in the save, whatever other algorithmic stuff you want to do to make your app more interesting. So this is the place where that kind of stuff would go. All right, so we've done all of our fun stuff. We're going to do the save. And now, if you recall, the HTTP interaction that we're going through, the user has sent the information, and it needs to go to our database and be saved, right? But we don't want the user to go to the database. There's nothing to see there. We want to redirect them to somewhere else on our site. In our case, the flow logically is going to be they save the updated version, and it just puts them back onto the main to-do tasks, view all tasks list page, and they should see their updated information there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use return. It's a return statement here. So this is now that we've completed all the things that we're going to do with this information. We're ready to send our user back. We're going to redirect the user using reverse inside of our parentheses. So we'd redirect, open parentheses, then reverse, open parentheses. And the reverse allows us to look things up in the namespaced way that we have our URLs set up so that we don't have collision with any expanding we do in our application. And we're going to send as a string to do : view dash tasks, and then close it with 2 closing parentheses. And this is the namespaced URL with the name of the application, the app name that we set in our URLs above our URL pattern, : and then the name of the view, the URL name that we set in our URLs. All right. Now, so this is all nested within our, what starts on line 37 for me, our if conditional statement. The user has sent form data. The method request is post, meaning that they are sending data to our server to be saved. We need to now handle the other condition. So I'm backing up to 1 indentation in. So I'm 1 tab over from the end, or 4 spaces, and I'm going to do the else conditions. Just the word else with no conditions into it. And we're going to do much like we did in the past, where we are going to say form, and we're going to instantiate a task form in this case. Now, the way that we've done this before, when we did our create task, we gave them just a blank form, the user, when I say that one. So we gave the user just a blank form when they came here. This time, we want the form to be linked to the piece of information that is already there. This is update. So we're not creating something afresh. We want it to be listed out in the form and pre-populated. So what we're going to do is, instead of just sending a blank class, we're going to send with our instance a keyword argument called instance. And we're going to set it to task, which is this task up here. And this is binding. This is called binding it to a specific object in the database. It's very common to include it this way as a keyword call, but there's other ways to do this. We can instantiate our task form on one line and then just do dot instance and set it as an attribute, because instance is just an attribute of the task form class, of the parent class, the form that we inherited from. So this is just a best practice to do with those in updating things so that it displays on the form when users get there. I'm also going to copy this instance task, and I'm going to add it up here to our first task call after the request.post. I'm going to add it as another call to also bind this information to make sure that this instance is absolutely the one that gets updated. Right? So this, again, is a best practice to make sure that you're updating, making sure that you're grabbing the right things at every point, and you're updating all things in the right way, and you're connecting things properly. So this is called form binding. It's a very useful thing to do, and this is the common way to do it. All right, now we need to do pass ourselves a context object the way we have in the past so that we can get a hold of this form that we've been messing with. And we're going to need to send this task to the front as well. So now I'm backed out of the else statement. That's all we need for our else statement is just the form that's got the instance information from our task. So I'm on the same level as the task call at the beginning, both the if and the else statements. And I'm going to do a context variable, just like we have before, and it's going to be a dictionary. So I'm going to put my opening and closing. I'm going to set the first key in our key value pairs to the string form, and I'm going to set that the value of it to our form variable that's set in both these places. And then I'm also going to include a task as another key value pair. Also string, task, lowercase, with colon separating the key and the value. And then the value is going to be the task object that we grabbed so that we can get some information out of that task. And again, trailing commas, because this is a dictionary Python, it's common to put a trailing comma, not required, but you can do that. Good thing to do. That's all we need in our context. So our base case, our method not being post, being get, most likely, when it just gets our URL and comes to our site, we want them to see exactly what? We want them to render. We need to render our return statement the way we have in the past, right? So this return render and then some sort of template, there's a word I was searching for, needs to be put up on the screen. So let's do that last statement to wrap up this. We'll do return. So we're on the same one indentation over, still inside of our update task definition, just one indent. Do our return statement, and we're going to use render because we're not sending anything to the database this time. So we're going to take some information from the request. And we're also going to add a to-do create-update-task.html. And then we're also going to send, I'll talk about that in a second, but we're going to send as our third parameter here in our render, the context object, so that we can get a hold of those things in the front end that we need, the form and the task object itself. So this, you may notice, we don't have this template like we in the past have not had. But I mentioned already that we're not going to have to rewrite a template from scratch. What we could do is just reuse reuse actually the entire front end template that we've got that we already made for our create task template. So we can update that, make a very small change to it, add a little bit of if, conditional logic at the top, and we can use it for both purposes, both update and create. So we're going to dual purpose, repurpose that existing template for this dual use. In doing that, we're going to have to make a quick adjustment. I'm going to do that before I leave. And I encourage you to as well, if you're following along, because this may be an easy place to miss. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to adjust our create view as well, because now we're going to use one template for both create and update. So we have to reference in the render call, where up here where it says create-task, we're going to change that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it up here where it says create task HTML. And I'm just going to replace it with create-update-task. So we have to go rename our file and do some changes to it, but those are the changes we got to do here in views.py. All right, we good on all this? Any questions up to here? I know, Erica, you're just joining us. So if you want to say, hey, just start over from the beginning, no problem. We'll just back it. No, I'm just kidding. But we can definitely answer questions. Anybody's got any? All right, cool. So we're going to save this before we move on. And now what's our next step? So we got 4-step process. We've written our view. Our next step is what?
We're going to make the URL.
Yep. We got to map our URL. So we got to go to our still on our project or our application level. So to do urls.py, and up underneath our task new, we're going to create another URL that is going to give us the space that we need. Let's zoom stuff out here. All right, so we're going to add another path object to this list. And we're going to have task. And this again is going to be the URL that's printed up at the very top of the page in the address bar of the browser. Fairly arbitrary what this is, but it needs to be somewhat unique. And it's helpful if it's descriptive on what it does. Doesn't have to be, but it's helpful, right? So we got task, we'll do task slash update slash, and then a piece that we include here is a way to pass that primary key. So we're going to do that with an angle bracket. So we got a left pointing angle bracket. We'll do int, which is short for integers, telling us that this is going to be an integer. It's telling the framework, Django, and all these things that we're passing integers. Then colon, and then we're going to do pk, and then the closing angle bracket. And this is all inside the string. This is all part of the URL. So it's going to print that primary key up on the URL bar, which you may not think is the best security practice. It may not be, and there are ways to obfuscate that. But for now, we're just going to pass it through to make sure we're clear on what's happening as we connect these things all the way. Michael, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm glad you're on time. But, it's good to look at the bright side of things. All right. So we have set our URL as a string, and we passed our primary key through there, which we know we used in our view. So now we need to, as we have in the past, reference our view. So we're going to do views.update_task, which is the name of the function that we wrote. And since we followed conventions, we don't have to go double check. That's why conventions are helpful. And then we're going to say name is, and we'll set it to a string of update-task. Again, keeping it consistent, keeping it logical. And we'll put our trailing comma because this is a list. And that's it. That's all we have to do for mapping our URL. So what's our next step? We're going to save this. What's our next step after we've written our view, mapped a URL? Now what are we doing? Template. Exactly. And this time, just explained it in the view before we left. What are we going to do with our template this time? Do we have to make a new template from scratch?
No, we're going to tweak it to the one we just copied.
Right. Yeah, the renamed dual use that we're gonna use for both creating and updating. So we're gonna make it a create and update. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rename this file, and I'm gonna do it here in the console because this is how I prefer to do it. I honestly, to be totally straight up with you, I don't really know how to do this in the GUI in Python anywhere without duplicating files. And I don't like doing that. So I'm going to do that here. And this is honestly the way I would do it anyway. So I'm going to use the mv command, which is short for move. This is one way you can move things around in your file structures, but it's also a way to rename things. So the syntax of this is it takes a source and a destination. But again, with any of these commands, if you forget, you can do --help, and then maybe scroll up towards the top, and it'll give you this usage thing that says MV, and then you just have some options, and then source destination is the normal one, source. Then you can have directories. There's other options, but source destination is all you got to really remember. So what we're going to do is we're going to do MV, and I'm going to be explicit, write the name all the way down, even though I could start with the directory I'm in as my site. But I'm going to do the to-do templates, and if you recall, we're changing the name of our template. So it's in the to-do templates. I'm using tab complete to make sure that everything's completed. When I get to the end of this line here, I'm not hitting enter. It's going to wrap around to the next line. So create-task.html. That's the name of the file, so it gives me space. So that's my source. My destination is going to be that same directory. I'm just going to rename the file. So I'm going to write everything with my site to do templates to do using tab complete. And now instead of using tab complete, I'm going to do the new name I want to use. So it was create update task.html. Right? And that's the name that we used in our views. This is the name that everything should be expecting. So once we hit this, it'll just look at us. It's not going to tell us that we did anything. But now we're going to go into our GUI and actually make the changes that we need to make. So let's go back to our GUI. We're opening urls.py. We have to go back up to our templates in the app level. So we're at to do, then templates, inner level to do to avoid conflicts. And then we can see it's renamed. So we have our create-update-task.html in there. When I open that, the code that we wrote before is still there. So this is the same form that we had before. Perfect. So all we need to do is we need to add a little bit of logic to the top of this, because the only thing that's really going to change is this right here, this heading where it says new task. The only thing that we're going to update here is if it's a new task or if we're updating a task. So there's no need to rewrite all this entire form just for that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a very simple Django if statement up here. So I'm going to give myself some space underneath the block content tag, and I'm going to give myself some space actually under the H3 tag as well. I'm going to space that out a little bit. And I'm going to open some Django tags. So the curly brackets, percentage sign. I'm going to close it so I don't forget. And in between those, we're going to do our if. And then we're going to check to see if something is true. In our case, the thing that will logically separate these two scenarios, whether this is a new task form or an update task form, is the presence of a task already existing, right? If we think logically about the difference between the two views, when somebody is making a new task, there is no task that they're pulling out of the database, whereas we're updating a task, there is one, right? So if we just check for the presence of that task, that should be plenty of logic of a Boolean value, yes or no, true or false. Does this thing exist or does it not? So we'll just do if task, because that's the name of the object that we sent in our view in the context, right? We pulled it, we saved it a variable called task. We set it as in our context dictionary, the value is task. The key was task as a string. So that's what we're referencing here. So we'll say if task. And in that case, we're going to write another H3, which is going to be update task. I'm going to indent this for human readability. Again, this is not relevant at this phase, what your indentations are for the computer. So between these two, the update task and the new task, we're going to put our else statement. So I'm going to add another Django tag, both opening and closing. So curly bracket, percentage sign, curly bracket. And then just the word else right above our new task. And then if you recall in Django, we have to end this if. If you forget to end the if with a Django tag, all one word, end if, it will break. So we had to add 3 lines. Very top line is our in a Django tag, so curly bracket, percentage sign. If task, we check to see if that task exists in the front end call. If it does, then we're updating a task. If it does not, our else condition is that we're doing a new task. So we put that up here. And then we have our end if just to make sure that we're done wrapping this up. And now since we've done this and we've sent our task to the front end in this scenario, we can do other things in here to make it a little more pleasing for users if we like. So we could add some information about the task. Like we could say task ID, task.id, sorry, in double quotation marks. And I put this little hashtag in front of it because it's going to be a number. We know that's going to be an integer. We know that's passed back and forth. This is referring to the primary key, right? It's called ID sometimes, so you can reference it using dot notation. You can reference any attribute from this task instance of the class from our database in the same way you reference any attribute from any class. And you use the double quotation marks in Django to put that information onto the screen. Everything outside of the double quotation marks is just text, right? So we're going to say update task and give the task ID. All the other information of our task is going to be in the labels in the form itself. So there's no need to put title up there, but we could put anything up there we wanted to, right? This is just an example of how we can grab that information and put it up there. So that is pretty much it for the templates step. So we're going to save this. Pretty straightforward logic on that. Any questions about this though?
Explain the task ID component one more time for me.
Sure. So this right here is these double curly brackets is just going to grab whatever we want out of this object and display it on the screen. So this right here is just getting the task ID for this specific task that we are updating in the scenario and printing it out on the screen for everybody to see. So say like updating task number 1 or updating task number 25 or whatever, so that the user has something to look at there that's referencing the task that they're using. It's more demonstrative to show you like how to grab stuff out of that object and display it on the screen if you want to use that for your users for whatever reason. Does that make sense?
I think so. I might have to see it in action.
Yeah. So it's not doing anything. So like there's an ID number, I guess, hammer this home. The primary key is an integer. It's being made as a number. And we can go look at to why that is. That's the default in Django. We can go look up and prove why that is. And this right here is just showing it on the screen, basically. So when I'm showing in this little piece
Gotcha.
of code is just to display that up on the screen so that it's got something about the actual task displayed on the screen outside of what's in the form. So in the similar way that we're getting the labels out of the form and stuff like that, we can grab specific information out of the task because we're doing an update operation. We have something to grab from the beginning.
Okay. It just clicked. That
Cool.
that works. Yeah,
Nice.
thank you.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Cool. Anything else? All right. Nice. Then the last step. So we've written our view, we've updated, we mapped our URL, we've updated our template in some way. What's the fourth and final piece to implementing a CRUD operation?
Navigation.
Yes, navigation. All right. So in this instance, where are we going to go to add navigation? We have been in the past going to our base HTML because it's up in the nav bar, but think back to our design. Where's this navigation going to go? To our new update flow. Where do we want to put that tag in our project directories?
Does it go to our view task HTML?
Yes, it does. Very good. Because if you recall, this is where we did our extensive user research, and we know that they're just going to come here and try to poke on the name. So we're going to wrap this in an A tag that's going to point to our URL that we just made, right? So let's go do that. So we're in to-do template, so we just have to go back up one in the directory we're in, actually just back up into that directory. And our view task.html, which is right up alongside our create update task HTML that we just edited. And we're going to add this information around the title. So this is going to be very simple. I'm going to move this down to get us some space so we know what we're looking at, but I'm going to go inside of our TD element, in between the TD element and the opening double curly brackets, and I'm just going to hit enter to give us some space between these things. And I'm going to put an A tag up here at the top. It's going to open like that. But what I want to do is take this closing tag. I'm just going to cut this out with Control X. You can write it if you like, but I'm going to put it directly underneath the title of the task. So now this is all broken down on different levels, so we can see the nesting of the HTML tags. But again, the computer doesn't care. This is to help us read what's going on here. If it's easier for you to keep it in one line, you can very well. But this is showing that in our table row, we have one piece of data, this TD, this table data tag. And then inside of that, we have our A tag, the text of which is going to be the title of the particular task that's pulled up for each of the tasks for every task in tasks. Whew. Tongue twisters. So now we need to do what we've done with all of our A tags is give it a hyperlink reference or an href attribute and set it to our Django URLs. So we're going to do our curly brackets, percentage sign, curly bracket inside of the double quotation mark string. The double quotation marks here in HTML are required. And we're going to do URL tag as always, and then our namespace to do :update task. If you recall, update task is the name in urls.py and to do URLs that we have listed for this URL pattern. But that's not all. This is all we've done up to now, but there's one more piece that needs to go in here. What other piece? Anybody that's following along really closely, what's the last thing that needs to get sent with this to make it work? Primary key, exactly. Erica nailing it in the chat. It is the primary key. So we have to send that along in this Django tag outside of the URL string, right? So we have our single quotation mark to do : update task, closing single quotation mark. We're outside of that, but we're before our curly bracket, our percentage sign curly bracket and double quotation mark. And we're just going to write task.id in the same way that we did before, where we reference the ID number of a specific task. This task, again, is the one that's being grabbed at each iteration of our loop, of our for loop up here. So just task ID, all by itself, not as a string, not anything special, just task.id. So now we can save this And that should be the last step. When we reload this now, done all those changes, we need to go give it a test and see how it works. And hopefully it does work. If it doesn't, then we have to troubleshoot. So we reload, go back to our site, we'll refresh the browser on this side, and it didn't break, and we popped up with links on here, which is good. So that's two good signs. And then when I click on one of these, it takes me to, it says update task number 3. So there's the ID, John Michael, that you were asking about. It's displayed up on the screen. Again, not hyper relevant in this scenario, but you never know. It might be something you need at some point. It's helpful for debugging every now and then. If you want to throw up like the primary key for the thing you're looking at, you can print it out on the front of your page like this and don't have to check your logs. But it's also nice to know how to grab that stuff generally. Let's say, you know what? Let's say I've got my life together. I'm on top of it. There's no more improvement needed. So now we can update our status. We could say, update it back to do. Say, no, that's not good. So we can send it back. We can give ourselves less time. And there we go. So we have our update implemented. John Michael, anybody else on the call that was able to keep up? Did you get it working?
Yeah, it looks good.
Nice. Eric, I know you were late, so I'm not going to call you out, put you on the spot. If you did manage to catch up, I would be thoroughly impressed. You definitely were on top of it with knowing the answers to the question. So, all right. So then the last piece that I want to implement to finish this up is the delete operation. So that's update. That's it. That's all there is to it. And delete's going to be very fast. What we're going to do is we're going to skip making the template and doing all those steps. We're going to use the JavaScript that we wrote earlier to add a confirmation to a very simple delete function that's just going to grab something and delete it. But we're going to use that pause that we made before in JavaScript to in lieu of a separate page template that says, you know, is that what you want to do, and confirm that operation with people. We're going to use our JavaScript from before. So that'll make our class pretty simple to write. Real quick before we step away from this page, though, design-wise, what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the page someplace. Again, this is something else that we would have decided earlier on. But logically, it's going to be tied to each individual one of these, just like the update function was, right? So each of these should have their own delete button in some place, some form, something, right? And we could do it, say, here. When you go to update, it could be delete, add the button here, make the delete button on this side. It could be off on the page someplace else. There's all kinds of ways we're going to do it, or we could do it. We're going to do it one way. The one way is we're just going to add another row, or another column, rather, to this table, where there's going to be a placeholder in the heading, so there's no actual word at the top. And then we'll just add a button to each one of these objects as it loads, and it'll just be its own delete button there. So that's generally what we're going to make. Make sense? All right, cool. So we're going to go through the same CRUD steps, which once again, where do we start? We write a view. Write a view. Write our view. So we go to the views. So to do views.py. Underneath our update task function that we just wrote. For me, that ends on line 49. I'm going to line 51, whatever line you're on. So we're not indented at all. This is right up against the edge. We're going to define our delete task function. So we say def, like we have in the past, because we're doing functional views still. And we're going to do delete underscore task. It is going to take the request, as always, because we're still on HTTP. There will be a request from a user. It's going to hit a URL. And we're, just like update, going to send our primary key to say which item we want to delete out of our database. So just like we did gathering our information for the data for the update, we're going to enter a task variable and save our object from the database into it. This is, again, writing in Python, but this boils down to SQL at some point. So we're going to put task, which will map to the the from part of our select from where statement in SQL. So we're in task.objects .get, same way we did before. And we'll pass the parameter of ID, or the keyword argument ID, and set it to PK, which is the primary key that we pass to the top level function. And this is where it is, again, exceptionally simple, exceptionally easy. Since we're not going to redirect anybody to do anything. There's no form information to do. We're just deleting something. We're just going to delete it. So we're just going to say task dot delete, open and close parentheses, built-in method. So we don't have to do anything further. This is built into Django. This is again where Django is helping us out. We don't have to go in and do any cleanup on the SQL side or any of that kind of stuff. It's just going to handle all that for us. And then all we got to do is return our user. So they will hit a URL, but there's nothing to see. It's basically like skip off the URL and go right back to somewhere, but obviously not into our database, right? It's not going to go to the server. There's nothing for the user to see at the server. So we're going to redirect them. So with a return statement, so we're going to return, because these are functions, they need a return statement. So we return a redirect, and we're going to use, once again, reverse, because we're using namespaced URLs. So reverse, open parentheses, so redirect, open parentheses, reverse, open parentheses. And then as a string, the name of our URL, and we're going to send them right back to our view-tasks. So they're not going to leave this view really, in their perception. It's just going to kind of just delete after, again, we know that we're going to put an intermediate step in here when they click a button on the front end that's going to stop them and get the confirmation, but we're going to use JavaScript to do that. So this is once they have confirmed and they said, yes, do that. It's going to hit our URL, delete the task, and then send them right back to the view. So that for them, they're not going to leave views. The task is just going to delete as soon as they confirm in the JavaScript. And that's it. This is our delete task. That's all we got to do. Except we do have to follow the patterns. So the next step after we write our view is what?
Create the URL.
Yep. Got to map our URL. So we're going to go up one level. Whoa. I'm going to save first because I diligently follow every step without skipping them. And then I'm going to go up a level. And we're going to map our URL in the to-do urls.py, where we mapped our update. And I'm going to get lazy, as all of y'all should, and I'm just going to copy the last thing that we did, because this is really just changing update to delete. And we're going to use the rest of the structure pretty much exactly the way it is. So everywhere it says update in this line 9 for me, the fourth call, I'm going to change to delete. Right? So in the first one is this URL string, so it's going to be delete. We're going to leave this PK because we do have to send a primary key, just like when we update. I'm going to do this views.update underscore task, change that to delete task. And I'm going to change the name of my URL to delete-task. There we go. So now we've got our URL mapped. Again, following the same pattern as update, we send our primary key along with it. There's really not going to be much to look at here, but it is going to map through the same way that we've done in the past. So let's save that. All right, so we've written our view, we mapped our URL. Now we need to do what? What's the third step?
Navigation.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of both, but in this case, it's the template. Yeah.
Yeah. Template.
Right. So I guess you're right. So honestly, you're right. We're going to skip the template because we're not doing that phase. We're using the JavaScript instead. Like I said, it would be the template though. If we're using class-based views, if we have time to do that, if we have time to rewrite, which it looks like we probably will, if we have time to refactor into class-based views, we will need to write a template for this delete function, because it is possible to do that. But we're going to skip that step because we wrote JavaScript instead, right? So it would be template, but we're going to skip that. So we are going to go to navigation, but not because template isn't required. Again, it's only not required in our case because we're using JavaScript instead. So to do that, when we recall, we're going to add our delete button onto which template? We need to do templates, but where's it going to go? Again, logically, we said we're going to add some space into our table, and we're going to put the button there next to each item. So which template is that in our directory? It's right here on this page. So which template am I looking at right here?
That one's our view tasks.
Yes. Nailed it again. Nice job, man. All right. So we're going to go on our project level templates. So to do templates, to do view tasks. All right. Now, again, the idea here is we're going to add a space to this table to the right on the right-hand side. We're going to add a column that's just going to have a placeholder header, and there's going to be a button as each value for that each piece of data in that table. So the first thing we have to do is up here in this top row, right underneath our class, our table class call. For me, this row starts on line 10. We have all of our header rows. We have table or title, due date, status. Underneath status, I'm going to do another TH element, which is a table header, and I'm going to leave it blank. Doesn't need any text on the inside. We don't need anything to be written there. This is just a placeholder, so we have space for our buttons to show up, and it doesn't come all mashed up and weird looking, or we don't have to try to split them in here somewhere or put them somewhere else. But again, this is a design decision that you can do differently if you want to do it some other way. This is how we're approaching it. So we've added our table header row in the header row. We've added one column for that. Now in our next row down, there's our closing tag, and inside of our for loop where we're handling the specific task, where we have the title, where we just added the link to update, we have our due date, and we have our status. Right underneath that, we are going to add our delete button. So we're going to add another table data element, so TD. I'm going to space down because we're going to add an A tag in here, and it's just, again, going to be easier to see the nesting and write it this way. So we're just going to put a button on the inside of this. It's just going to be an A tag like we have several times, and it's going to reference our delete URL. So following the same Django patterns as always, we're going to do the href attribute, set it with a string using double quotation marks, because now we're back in HTML, using Django's template tags, curly bracket, percentage sign, curly bracket, so we don't forget to close them. URL tag, then single quotation string to do, so our namespaced URL, colon, delete, dash, task. Single quotation mark closing. And then just like we did with update, we need to send the task.id, the primary key, outside of our URL string, but inside of the URL template tag. So before the percentage sign, but outside of the single quotation mark. Task.id. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to close this off so I don't forget to. But I'm also going to back up here, and before the href, you could put it after the href. It doesn't really matter. The order of these things does not matter, but kind of by convention, I like to put classes first. So I'll put class. I'm going to assign this to a couple of classes, the first of which is going to be just BTN, the button class that we've used before, so it'll be button shaped. And then we're going to use our btn-delete, which if you hook that up from before, that should reference our custom JavaScript class, and this is where we're going to leverage that JavaScript. So where it should be able to delete, hopefully another broke between last time and now. Since we haven't touched any of that stuff, it should still work the way it did last time. But again, that's, now that I've said that, it'll probably fail on us and we'll have to spend the last half hour debugging. But the idea here is we should be able to simply just plug this in as a class like we did before in testing when we put it on our about A tag, and then we'll be able to use it here in our delete button. So the last piece we need here is some sort of text to appear on the screen so that people can read this. So I'm going to do delete task. You could just do the word delete, whatever you like. And that should be it for implementing delete. So let's save this and let's go give it a try. So now we have our delete button. It should be popping up as a new object. Let's reload the server-side code. Excuse me. All right. And let's go back here, refresh the browser side. It didn't break. We do have a new column here with a delete task button on each one of our objects. So let's hit delete task and see what happens. I've got the JavaScript come up and says, hey, do you want to do that? I'm going to cancel. Say, no, I don't, because I do want to get my life together. And then I'm going to hit delete task again, and we'll test the actual working. I'll say, okay, this time. Say, yeah, I've given up on this. We're not doing that. So there we go. Pulls it right off. John Michael, you able to do that?
I did. The only thing is the column header for me is gray. It did not go white for some reason. It's weird.
Gray? Like this whole header is gray? all the time.
Just the header for delete test.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Double check. That's weird, man. Double check you don't have anything in there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard of that, but we can hop in there and look at it if you want to. I'm definitely curious, but if it's functioning properly, then
Yeah, it's working. It's working
nice,
just fine.
nice.
So it's got to be like an HTML error, I think.
Something. Yeah, it's got to be something that you're doing in somehow on the front end that's got it
Yep.
popped up, and it should just be a plain th tag, so there shouldn't be anything inside of it. That's definitely a new one, though, man. Let me know if you figure out what caused that, because we got so basically this is the app. This is the thing. We have now done it. There's nothing else that must be done for this to be a fully functioning application. We now have all four of our CRUD operations in here. We can create, read, update, and delete tasks. That's it. There is nothing else to it. This is ready to go and ship. We're done with it, right? We've completed our design. So from here, we've got a couple options, right? We've got about 30 minutes left. We can go through refactoring into classes and see how the difference is in leveraging classes instead of functional based views. It's very similar, a lot faster in some ways because it can do inheritance. And we got plenty of time to go through that. Or we can go through and answer any questions you might have or anything else that you might want to talk about before we end for today and leave the refactoring for homework. So I'm going to leave it to the class. And since there's four of us in here, this could easily be a stalemate. No, I'm joking. What do you think? You want to do refactor into class-based views and see how that goes?
I'm open to it.
All right. Cool. Let's do that then. That will be fun. So class-based views.
Excuse me. I need a little
Yeah.
help with my I'm stuck around week 7.
Okay.
But I'm sure I can catch up,
Sure.
Um, but I got some weird error.
Okay.
Like remember you gave me some advice to fix 2 things and I did. So
Okay. And then you got stuck someplace else?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can absolutely spend a few minutes going and having a look at debugging, even if it's not today's stuff. Yeah. And if you've got questions,
could you check out my like my practice codes?
yeah.
Just tell me what you think of them. Because I get them from other apps.
Which practice codes do you mean?
Like I saved some practice codes just to I write them down, but I never typed them.
Oh, okay. I get you.
Just check them out. They're correct.
Uh-huh.
So
Sure. And this is you right here.
I use an AI tool for those, but not for the homework.
Okay. So this right here is you, right? Mike Trust 30?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's go have a look, see what you got going on. I'm gonna open up your web tab.
Okay, you go to the error file, right?
Yeah, so I can go straight to the log file right down here, whereas the error log is the one that I usually look at.
Okay, right. Yeah.
And I'm gonna scroll all the way down because the most recent
right,
errors are gonna be down.
Right. And so
here.
what's that?
This right here. Yeah, so this I wouldn't worry about that. So on our site, we didn't set one, but it's just this little picture up here at the top. If you look at the very top of my URL at this tab on Python Anywhere, it's a little Python picture. We didn't set one. So like on my site, it's just going to be this globe. This is the default thing that Chrome puts up there because it's the World Wide Web still, even though that's outdated to call it that. This is where the favicon thing would go. It's like your favorite icon thing up there. So that's not breaking anything for sure. That will not break anything. This is, you fix this though?
Where I misspelled the word.
Yeah, you misspelled path. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, so let's see what else is going on then. Let's go back and I'm gonna try running your site and see if it hangs up for me the same way it does for you.
I don't got the color.
Okay. And
so like I say, I'm around week 7. I can catch up real quick though. I just wanted to, I didn't want you called it error dead or something. Yeah.
Tech debt. Yeah. No worries.
I don't want no tech debt.
Yeah. Don't think about it that way, man. I think you'll be fine as far as that goes. But Yeah, no, you look like you're in good shape. It's running at least. So you, if you're stuck on like catching up from there, again, you can reach out even if it's after this class ends on Thursday. You can reach out to me on Friday or next week, or come back for the next course that we have starting April 15th. Y'all are in the group now, man. Like, it doesn't have to be done by Thursday and you're out the door, right? So reach out to me. We could do a one-on-one session, Michael, if you like. I could sit down and we could catch up from where you are to where we are now and get you through that endpoint. And
yeah, and in my files, like I said, I got practice codes.
yeah, where are those? Oh, these right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those two, yeah.
Let me have a look at what you're talking about. I get you. All right, yeah. So you got factorials, recursive functions. Yeah, cool. Doubling stuff. Right.
Most of them work.
Yeah, no, these are all work. This is exactly the kind of stuff that does, like the kind of things that we do on algorithmic practice that we did on either LeetCode or Code Wars. This is the sorts of things that come in really handy for that sort of thing. And password generators, like that stuff's great too. This is a lot of fun to use. So these are really handy scripts, definitely.
Okay, like I say, I use help. Replit is awesome.
It is.
I'm really good with that tool.
Yep.
And so
yeah, dude, like keep plugging those in, and then those sorts of things, those sorts of algorithms and whatnot, when you build up these CRUD operations, they'll kind of plug into the views where we've written them, right? So you can expand this app that we write to do all kinds of really interesting stuff using those sorts of application, like those sorts of algorithms. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, no, like definitely, man. Let's reach out to me. We can sit down and go through, like, catch you up to here, and get this app totally built so you can start plugging those things in, and absolutely keep using Replit. It's one of the things listed in the free code resources.
Like I don't use it for your class, sir.
No, you should. I mean, there's no reason not to, man. It's got this same stuff that Python Anywhere does. It has like the Django framework built into it too, and it has all kinds of helpful, and it's got AI built into it. I fully endorse that. It's on the free coding resources. I fully endorse using Replit, man. It's absolutely worth it. So, the most important thing for this course is to really understand where stuff is supposed to go. I'm not so concerned with you understanding. I mean, I want to understand it, but like being able to generate the code off the top of your head is not the goal. So using AI is absolutely cool to generate the text. It's more important that you know where to put it, where to plug it in, what the overall app looks like. And then AI is a great tool to handle the syntax stuff so that you don't have to remember all the syntax. And that's actually, if you haven't heard of it, has anybody here heard of vibe coding? Anybody heard of that?
I haven't.
You haven't? So this is something I recently heard about myself. It's apparently like a full-on thing. That's exactly what I just described. You don't worry, you use AI to to handle the little syntactical minutia that we're writing here of writing by hand, which is good practice to do. I encourage you all to keep doing that. But there's no shame in having an idea for an app and then using AI to actually write the syntax and be like, this is what I want it to do. If you know where to take that code, plug it into a framework and run it and test it, then you can use the AI to say, no, that didn't work. Fix this, fix that. And you're not having to worry about the actual syntax specifically. You're just looking at the entire architecture and where things plug in. And so that's really what I want to get you to understand with this entire course is understand where parts go, right? So there's no reason not to use AMs.
I just want to say one more thing about AI. Yeah, it gives you a code, but it doesn't necessarily know if it works or not.
It does not. No, you absolutely must test very closely anything you get from AI, very closely. It's not something that can be trusted.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly what you're saying, Eric, is the troubleshooting part is hard, and the generating the syntax is not the hard part. That's not the difficult part. It's architecting an application, doing something that makes sense, and then troubleshooting the problem when it comes up. Like AI can help with that. It can help you decipher those things. It can help you explain why something's broken. Like, all that stuff's great. But where humans are really useful is understanding the big picture of it, really. And so that's what I want to make sure that we're focused on here is understanding where parts go so that we can have something like AI generate the pieces. We know how to debug. And to Erica's point, we're not stuck in just being like, oh, it didn't work. What AI gave me didn't work and I don't know what to do. We do know what to do. That makes you like professional level. You can go in there and fix it. You know where the logs are. You know what the logs mean. And if you don't know what they mean, copy and paste the log and have AI explain it to you. You at least know where to get the log, right? Like that's more important. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so let's do again. Michael, hit me up, man. We'll do we do one-on-one time and we can go through to make sure that you got everything caught up to here. And it doesn't have to be within the framework of the course dates. Again, that's once you're in the Hired Labs community, man, it's whatever fits your schedule. It's self-paced. As long as you keep working at it, that's really the best thing. So let's go through refactoring into class-based views because it's handy, it's useful, and it's an option, right? So this is not something you have to do. You can leave our views. I'm going to go back to our views.py and to do. You can leave these as functional based views. There's nothing wrong with this. It's totally cool. I had the hardest time when I first started learning of understanding like why one over the other. There are some advantages to using classes, and what the biggest advantage is leveraging what Python does with classes generally, which is inheritance, right? So we can inherit from other classes that are written down somewhere all kinds of cool capabilities so that we don't have to write them ourselves explicitly. So our functions here are pretty explicit with some of the stuff we're doing, like we're handling forms, we're doing validations, we're doing some of the method checking and stuff like that. We can use Django's built-in classes to not mess with any of that and just reference the classes. So up here at the very top of our views.py, up in our imports, we're going to import these classes to get started with. And we'll go through, maybe I'll go through maybe like implementing one, and then we'll talk about the others and maybe not do all four, maybe leave some, just make sure we got time to do all of it. We're not rushing through it. But I'm going to import them all here, right? So up at the top somewhere, it doesn't matter where, I'm putting it on line 4 for me, but again, this is arbitrary, but at the top is important to keep it in importing before you use anything. So we're going to say from Django.views.generic, we're going to import a whole set of these things. So we're going to follow the CRUD patterns so we keep it all straight, and they're very aptly named. We have a create view. So these are classes again. So they're camel cased with capitalized first letter. And then our read operation is broken down into two different things. There's a list view and a detail view. So a detail view is, imagine if we open up the task and we could see like assignees and due dates and all kinds of like a lot more detail than we have on our thing. That's one view. We don't have that in our app, so we're not going to use that. But the list view is exactly what we have on our view tasks.html. So we're going to do uppercase list, case view. And then the other two, update view and delete view, are the generic views built into Django. Again, these CRUD operations are so common that our framework has classes built in already that'll handle these view operations that we just built manually with our functions. So I'm going to go down below our functions because that's what I feel like doing. This could go arbitrarily above them, wherever you like, but I'm going to put them below. And we're going to define our classes. Now, in the documentation, if you're following that, it's got a handful of. It's got all 4 of them. It's got all 4 of them written out, starting with, I think, update and things like that. Let's start with delete, though, because this one is going to require us to actually go and make a template that we didn't do before. And I want to make sure, again, we go through that real quickly, set it up, show the difference. But it's going to be a very slim class that we're going to write. So I'm going to write class the way we have in the past. I'm going to move down so we got some space. So we're going to define ourselves a class, and we're going to call it a task delete view. And we're going to inherit, because these are classes, right? So this is the input that we put in here is telling it from which parent class are we going to inherit. And we're going to inherit from the generic delete view class. So it's going to give us all those delete functionality that we need. And then we're going to have to give it some parameters. The first one it expects is a model attribute. So the attribute, not parameter. So the attribute model is going to be our task model that we imported before. And we're going to give it a template underscore name, which we'll set to the string to do / confirm -delete -task.html. Again, we haven't made this yet. We're going to have to go make this following the pattern that we normally do. And then the last thing that this class is going to require from us is an attribute called success underscore URL. I'm going to set that to a string, which is going to be /to do, and the closing string. That's it. That's all we got to do. So this function, or this class, is now going to handle the stuff that we did with this function up here. It's going to all the same stuff built in about grabbing the right objects and doing all the right things. Once we send the PK, all that noise, it's wrapped up into this. So we don't have to do any of that stuff. So what we're going to do now, we don't have to do anything with our URL. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. We do have to do things with our URL. So let's go update our URL to handle this new task delete view class. Again, so we're not going to do all 4 of our views now. We're going to go through the delete thing because we have to make a template, and then we can go back and quickly implement the other 3 if we got time, or leave it for homework. So I'm going to save this because we've written our view. So now we must update our URLs. So we don't have to map one because it's already mapped. We already have all 4 of these mapped. But now we have to remap our delete view because we're using classes, not functions. We want to use our functional view, not our class view. So we have to import our classes the way we have imported things in the past. So it's a different import statement that we're going to put underneath the one we already have. We're going to do from dot views import, and then the name of the classes that we want to import explicitly. We don't want to use the asterisk or anything like that, even though you can in Python use asterisks for import statements. Don't do it. It's a bad habit. It's a trap, right? So we're going to do explicitly all the classes that we want to import, this time just the task delete view, but we could add more as we write them. And then we have to update our path itself in this section right here, because we're no longer going to do our function-based view, the delete underscore task view. We're going to use our task delete view that we imported up here. And so we're going to take this call out and we're going to replace it with the name of that class, task delete view. And then we're going to use a built-in method that Django gives to us that handles this portion of it, that handles the class to view interaction. So we're going to do task delete view, the name of our class, dot as underscore view, open and close parentheses, because it's a method. Other than that, there's nothing else we need to change. So our top 3 CRUD operations, our create, read, and update, are still functional calls. There's no problem mixing classes and functions, except for it looking nasty and being kind of weird. This should work exactly like it has, except we're going to have to go make this template, right? So we're going to have to go make a template now to handle this confirm delete task thing, because we're not going to use the JavaScript anymore. This is going to use the Django that's built in. So let's save these changes, and we'll go into our to-do templates, to-do, and we're just going to make a file in here. And we're going to do confirm dash delete dash task.html. Hit new file or enter and take us right in here. So we're going to open this up the way we have any of our other Django templates, with a Django front end tag at the top and the word extends, an S at the top, and the name of the template we want to extend, in our case, base.html, as a string. And then we need some sort of block tag in here, which I will open and close in Django again. So block is a reserved word in Django that partitions out the page, and we have named our block content to remember that that's where our main content is going to go, and we don't have to go back and check the name. And then we have to remember to end the block, a reserved word in Django, with another tag. So we've started our template the way we have in the past. And all we're going to do in this is very simply have a statement across the top that just says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And then a button that says yes or no. And the no can just be a cancel button that goes back to where it was. So there's going to be a new page with the confirmation. So this is replacing the the JavaScript that we wrote. This is doing it purely in Python and purely in Django, right? All right, so you sure you want to delete the task is what we're going to add in here as just a paragraph. So you don't have to indent, but I'm going to indent that just for kind of best practices to keep in mind that this is indented on the page, but or in the hierarchy of HTML. But again, that's human readability. And I'm going to do p tag, which is short for paragraph. We'll say, are you sure you want to delete task? And then we can give, again, information that we did in the past with the double quotation marks, both open and closing. And then we can call, say, task.id, because we should have a task at this point sent to us for our delete function to have worked, right? The primary key was sent through the URL. We should have a task here. If we don't, we shouldn't get here. So then under this, we're going to have a form. So we're going to put another form in here. So we're an HTML form element. I'm going to close it up. And inside of the form opening tag, we're going to put our method is going to be set to post. Now, in the documentation has this in lowercase. I don't think it matters here. But again, play around with it. Try it out. I'm going to write it in all caps because that's how we've done it in the past. But just as a side note, I don't think it makes a difference in the HTML side. Now, what we're going to add to our form, the way we always do in Django forms, does anybody remember? This is kind of an obscure one, but we added something as a security feature. Do you remember what it was? It's a Django template tag. So I can open and close that. Yes, CSRF. Erica coming in with the knowledge. Do you remember what it stands for? I'll give you a second to type it if you're still on the chat. But CSRF is right. We do CSRF underscore token. And this, yes. I mean, cross-site forgery is pretty much the thing you need to remember. It's reference, cross-site reference forgery. So CSRF is this cross-site reference forgery is a very common attack. And this helps prevent that sort of thing. So always put that in your forms. CSRF, cross-site reference forgery token. And then from there, we're not going to put anything complicated in this. It's really just going to be buttons to accept. So we're going to do a button, and this is going to be a submit button. So we say type as an attribute, submit, and we'll just put confirm or yes, if you like. It doesn't really matter. This is for human readability. And then our cancel button or our no option of no, we don't want to do that. We changed our mind. It's just going to be an A tag that'll send users back to our view tasks URL. So we're going to do the hyperlink reference, href, set it to our Django tag with curly brackets, percentage sign, curly brackets, URL tag on the inside, and then our namespace to do colon view dash tasks as a string. Close off this A tag. And we could put cancel or no or whatever you like in there. It does not matter. That's for human readability. We'll save this. And then the last thing we got to do here, since we are now bypassing our JavaScript, is we could take that class call out from our base.html or our viewtask.html template. So let's move up into that and pull it out if we're ready to move off of this screen. Anybody that's following along, give it just another second. And then we'll move off of this screen to our base, or sorry, view task.html. So we're still in to do templates to do. We're going to do view task.html. And I'm just going to remove our button delete class from our delete button because we don't need our JavaScript anymore. We're going to do this in pure Django. So I'm going to save that. And now if we reload the server side, and we refresh the browser and nothing breaks, which is always encouraging. We still have our delete buttons here. So now let's try deleting this create tasks thing. And it says, hey, are you sure you want to delete number 4? We have our confirm button. We have our cancel button, which again is not a front end class. We're not trying to make this look beautiful. We just want to see that it works. So we're going to try cancel first. Still there. It takes us back like it's supposed to. Now if I hit delete, I hit confirm, it takes it out. So now we've re-implemented our delete function with a class-based view. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Right. So then we can very quickly and very easily implement the other views as well and refactor those into class-based views. That one is going to be the most complicated one. We had to write a new template for it. The rest, we don't have to do anything for it. They're already set up. We just have to go in and refactor our views in our to-do views.py. So we can just roll through that real quick. It's a process that, again, is following the same steps. We're just going to update our, wait, what am I doing here? We're going to update our views, and then we're going to update the URL references, and then that's it. Then it'll be ready. It'll be ready to rock. So we just have to make sure that we write the views as classes, right? So we have this little warning up here that says we imported all these classes, the create, list, and update views that we didn't use. So let's go use those. That's all that's telling us. So we can add those real quick down here, and then we can just map the URLs in the way that we did this, and we can knock this out no problem, just a couple of minutes. So the other CRUD operations are similarly going to be simple because we're going to leverage all the built-in stuff and inherit it out of those generic views. So I'm going to do it in the same order that we normally do: create, read, update, and delete. So I'm going to go above my delete thing. This is arbitrary. You can do this in any order you like. But I'm going to do our create view up here. So I'm going to do this as a class. So we're refactoring the class-based views. I'm going to write class, lowercase class, and then task create view, and it's going to inherit the generic create view in parentheses, right? So task create view, camel case, so task create and view all uppercase, no spaces, open quote, open parentheses, create view, also camel case, so create and view uppercase, close parentheses, colon, one indentation in. Inside of the class, we're going to send a model attribute, set it to task, because we're doing things with the task model once again. And then we're going to do this fields attribute. And this, so there are a number of attributes we use here. We use the form attribute itself that we already made in our forms.py, or we use this fields attribute and just make this the form right here, because this will handle all that stuff. So we can put in exactly what fields we want to show up in our form when we create our view, just like we did in the forms.py. So this is, again, one of the beauties of using class-based views. The create view already assumes that there's going to be a form, so it just asks you which model, which fields you want. It takes care of all that other form stuff that we did explicitly when we did it as a function. So we're going to put those same things in here, but again, we could reference the form that we already made if we wanted to. But we're going to use all three of our status, our title, do, and status fields as our fields attributes as a list. So 3 strings in the list, title, do, and status. And then similarly, we need to send a template underscore name, just like we did for the delete task class, except this one is going to be our create update dash task.html, our dual purpose create and update template. And this will also take a success underscore URL, which will just again be our home for the to-do list, which is going to be to-do as a string, so /to-do. And that's the create view. That's the whole class create view. I'm going to hit save here. I'm not going to go map the URL. I'm going to try writing all 3 of these other, whoa. Now I'll save it, not with any extra characters in there. But so that's it. So it's just 4 lines of code in there, as opposed to what we had here, our create task, which is much lengthier when we did it as a function. But we get to leverage all the things that are in this generic create view that comes in Django, right? And does a lot of the stuff for us. Right? So now we have our create. Now we're going to do our read, which, as we know, is our list view. But we're going to set that again as a class. And it's going to be our task. And we'll call it list view because we want to be explicit. We want to be clear that this is the read that we have. Because, again, there could be a detail view at some point. We don't want to block off that possibility or make it confusing later. We want to be explicit on what this is. And we're going to inherit the generic list view class, or from the generic list view class. We're once again going to do model is a task. We're going to say our templates underscore name is to do as a string / view dash tasks.html. So the template we've already been using. And then the way that we pass our context object, because we need that in the front end, if you recall. So we do our context underscore object underscore name equals tasks. And if you recall, this is what we set when we did our, scroll up here, in our view tasks, we set our context object as tasks up here. So that's what it's called in our front end already. So we shouldn't go renaming things and when we're just refactoring, that'll cause it to break. We don't want that to happen. So we're doing it as our generic list view. We're going to keep that same name, but this is how you pass it. This is how you set it. You don't have to explicitly set a dictionary. You just call this context underscore object underscore name attribute and set the value to whatever you want to call it. All right. And then the last one is our update. That's all we got to do for the list view. So we're going to do class, and we're going to do task update view. And then this one, we're going to inherit in the update view. Sorry, I think I see an issue actually with the documentation. It says to use create view, but there is an update view thing. So we're going to do that, right? So we're going to do model is task. We're going to set fields again, same way we have before. And in fact, it's really just the same stuff as this task create view. It's really going to be these same objects. I just copy all of this honestly and just paste it down there. The part that we need that's different is this name here to make sure that we're different. We could do different things with it once we needed to, but it's a very simple app. There's not a lot of different functionality going on here. This should be the exact same content, really. So now we've defined all these views. We have our update view. We have our create, our read, our update. We have our delete. So now in the last minute, let's go real quickly and just update our URLs. So that should be the last step. And then this should all work, hopefully. Again, if it didn't break anything massively, then we have to follow the same pattern that we did with a task delete. We have to import all of these, right? So I'm going to keep it in the same order as CRUD just so we don't forget. So I'm going to do task create view, camel case, give myself some space so I'm not so crowded, and then task list view, and task update view, and task delete view, all separated by commas. And then we have to follow the same patterns. There's the same .as view method for all of these. So I'm just going to copy this task delete view and just change the word delete in each of these because it's the task something view in all of our preferences. So update changes to update. Create changes to create. Other than that, it's the same. And then the list view is the top one. List view. So now we save these. We should task. I misspelled my import statement up here. Let me correct that. Okay, so we're gonna get this little arrow at the side that says that we did not use this anymore, that we imported it. That won't break anything. So if it annoys you, comment it out, erase it. It's up to you. You can comment it out so you know what the call was later. You can change this back to functional views if you prefer using functional views, wherever the case may be. But for me, I'm just going to comment it out. We'll save it that way. And then this should be the end of it. Once we refresh this, reload. Oh, man, I was doing so well. I'm not calling this refresh. Reload here on the server side. And then we'll refresh in the browser. And hopefully nothing breaks. And we could still do all of our functions. Another task, do at some point, say submit, and we can do that. We can delete tasks. We can update tasks. And there we go. So we refactored into classes really quickly. It's much less code. It leverages the existing functionality from Django and the classes that are already written, especially in these generic things. You don't have to spend a ton of time going through line by line and figuring out how to make sure each function works. Just leverage the stuff that's already there. So I know we're like a couple minutes over. John Michael, we following along? Were you able to do that? Able to refactor?
I must have broken some stuff somewhere, so I have to go back through and see where.
Okay. You want to try to debug now? I mean, we got a couple of minutes after. I can stop the recording and we can dive into it. But if you're done, we can put it down for tonight too. That's also an option.
No, I got time.
Okay. All right, cool. Anybody else got any other questions or anything? So before we stop the recording? Or wrap up the class rather. I'm gonna keep the recording going just in case there's some value in the debugging and we can clip it if not.
No questions.
All right. Great. Then once again. Yeah, cool. Excellent. Yeah, Erica, Michael, both y'all, if you're a little bit behind, catch up what you can on the docs, reach out if you got questions. We can set up time one-on-one if you need. But definitely we can wrap it for tonight. And then John Michael, if you want to stay on, we can debug a little bit. All right, y'all. Thanks a lot. And then, all right. So I'm going to keep, again, like I said, I'm going to keep the recording going just because you never know. I've made that mistake in the past where I'm like, yeah, let's turn this off. And then it's like some of the best examples come up. So if not, we'll just clip it later, man. No big deal. So, all right. So this is you, right, Jim?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right. So I'm going to start by going to, it's funny, I get so used to doing this all zoomed in like 150-ish%. And then when I go and do this on my own stuff and it's like normal sized, it feels so small. All right, so let's go down here. Raise fielder message. Unknown fields delete specified for task. Okay, so this, I'm looking right here where it says field error. It says unknown fields specified for task. So what is that hinting at that the error might be, or like where it might be?
I'm I'm thinking that it's gotta be somewhere. Let's see. I know in my URLs I have errors, but it says that's because the imports are unused.
Okay.
And then that error right there leads me to believe that it's got to be in the
Well, let's think about where did we specify or even use the word field? Like where do we write the word field or fields?
Nope. We have it in the create update task.
Yeah, in the form, right? It's in the form when we
Right.
grab out of the field. Yeah. Okay, that's one place.
Yeah.
Where's another place we write it? That's good. Where else?
But I mean, so it's there. It's in view tasks, right?
Yeah.
And then confirm delete task.
Yep. It's in the front end. It's in all the front end form stuff. Where is it more in the like back end areas that we wrote it? Where else do we reference fields?
In the back ends, would it be in the like views?
Yeah, views.py. So that's definitely one of the things. So there's the forms.py that we set up the other day when we did the create, right? Which we didn't do any changes to today, so it's probably not in there. But, I mean, it could be unless you made it, like if you made a change to it or something like that. But we did in views use that word fields a couple of times when we wrote over to our class-based views. Right here, right? So it's one of the things that we set, and now you get an error right here. And you
I
say
see it now.
syntax error. Yeah. So what is the syntax? Do you see it? I see it. It's very small. It's very slight. It's very subtle. But it's a Python syntax error. This thing is right, and it's on that line, so it's showing it's telling you right.
Oh yeah, I'm missing the semicolon.
Colon.
Yep.
Full colon. Yep. Missing the full colon. Yep. Let me
Yeah.
get out of that file, so you can update that because I'm not sure if it'll do some like. I think it blocks you from saving it sometimes if I have it open. So go to your views.py to do views.py.
Okay.
And then there should be a little error warning on that line for the update task. And then all you gotta do is put that colon in there and see if that gets you unstuck.
All right, so let's see what my next problem is, because that fixes that.
Then you open up something and get some other problems.
Well, because I know that what was the last thing we were looking at? It was where were we last then? Was it
Okay. So did you
Yeah.
updated that though?
URLs, right?
So
Yeah,
this is
that's
now
updated. So
okay.
URLs,
Yeah.
so the import is saying, so like views, task create view is
Cannot
important but
import
not used.
name. Task create view. Okay. Cannot import name. Interesting. So where would we look to see where do you think that problem is? Like, where's the first place you want to check? Do you want to go to URLs.py? Check that out.
Yeah, yeah.
Check the import statement itself. Okay. Task update view. Yes, that's definitely not right. Imported but not used. Okay, so you're not using any of those three. So right here in your line 10, that's not right. So it's so
Oh,
yeah. You see what you did there? It's got you have the as view piece in there.
yeah,
So task update view and then as view. That should work. I think this just confused the interpreter. Let me get out of here so you can make the change.
yeah. Yep. And then uh, so I have to do it for all four of them, right? Like,
Let's see. Hold on. I honestly just completely forgot on what we just we just said you were fixing. Let me have a look at it again. Oh, I know it was in your URLs. Yes, you have to do it for all four of them. Yes,
okay.
yes. So,
Uh,
well, yeah, if you want to refactor them all into class-based views, yes. They should still work as function views the way you have it right now. But if you want to do all class-based views, then yeah, you got to do it for all four.
okay.
Because I'm looking at it. So yeah, if you just do the top one, replace it with task list view dot as underscore view, open and close parentheses, and then the create the same way.
Gotcha.
Here, I'm gonna get out of there so you don't have to block you from saving.
Okay, so then now I don't need, it says I don't use the from import views.
Yep, you're not using that, so you can ignore that if you want to. That's a bad habit. So either comment it out or erase it.
Yeah,
You
gotcha.
can comment it out so you can keep the syntax just for later if you want to do functional views again, which is sometimes like I was saying, man, when I was first learning this, and to this day, like I'll have a mix of functional and class-based views depending on what documentation I found to solve a problem I was trying to do, right? Sometimes the documentation is like, oh, here, use this class and put it here. And so, you know, it's good to be able to use both. It's good to know how they work and be able to grab them as you like. But that's really what I guess I didn't understand the difference for the longest.
Okay. Yeah. I usually like to like comment stuff out and then just put a reason in there and then
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because
And that,
like I'll forget, right?
yeah.
And
Dude, exactly. Well, something like this is for training purposes anyway, right? So like you
then,
should keep that kind of stuff for notes to know exactly how to write it and how to use it for next time or another time or whatever, right? So that gets
yeah.
you unstuck though? That's not working?
So yeah, so like now I don't see any errors, but the
Okay.
page is still saying something's wrong.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yep.
Let's go see what your log says. No, stop. Just scrolling. All right. Oh man, what did you do? No, I'm joking. Let's see.
Yeah.
From
I
views
broke everything.
import, task create view. Where's the cannot import name task create view from to do dot views? Really? Interesting. So what does that suggest to you?
So what did it say there? It was
It said, here, let me scroll up to the what looks like the very top error. It says import error. Cannot import name task create view from to-do.views.
task create view.
Hmm.
Oh. Oh.
There's your task create. Ah, I see it. I see it. Again, it's a very minor error, dude. It's like one character off, but it's right
Oh
here.
man. Oh man, because I can't spell. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a simple E. Yeah, dude, that's seriously, that's like
Uh,
straight up 90% of this, man, is exactly that issue. It's like forgetting to put the trailing silent E at the end of create. You know what I mean? It's just constant. I found that I have, people have like speech impediments, right? I found that what I have is a typing impediment. There are certain patterns that I do wrong every single, dude, is so frustrating. ION endings are one that I switch constantly. I switch the I and the O I have to go back and
Yeah.
rewrite them every time. It drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But trailing E, that's definitely one. So that gets you fixed?
Okay, so now I got the template does not exist at to do page. Let's see
This,
what's here.
which template does not exist? Is this your delete one? So hold on, that's not right.
It says task view task to do task list.
Hold up. Task list. The hell is that? I'm joking. Let's see if it says where that
So I
got
guess to
caught.
do, yeah.
I give. Let's see. All right. So that where again? Yeah. Where do you think that would be? Like, where are you referencing templates?
And this has to be the URL, right?
I don't think so. I'd look in the views.py,
Okay.
and I'm gonna look view. Here we go.
Is
So
it
I see what's happening. Yeah, I see where it is. So look at this. This is telling you what's happening, and it's pretty good. So this is saying that this template is what it looked for. This to do / view underscore tasks.html, and
yeah.
it couldn't find it. So what it looked for then was this task underscore list.html.
Hmm.
That the second one that's looking for, that's the default thing that's written into Django's create task or like create generic thing that we use, this generic view that we used up here. But this again it's a minor mistake. The name of your HTML is not underscore tasks, it's dash tasks. I'm almost positive if you follow the naming conventions. So
Oh yeah, I see it.
this is just a matter of having this be a dash instead of an underscore. And then
Uh,
it should be able to find that task. But that's what this task underscore list is. That's why it's looking for this, because it looks for the one that you give it as
yeah.
an override of the default one that comes with the class, which is this. And each of these classes comes with the default. That's the beauty of these classes. They come with this stuff all built in by default, and then you can just override it however you need to. Right. So what it does is it checks the override, then it falls back to default. And if there's no default, then it breaks. But
Yep. That was it.
that's it.
Yeah, if you
Cool.
reload it, you see that header?
Yeah, dude. What's
Can't figure it out.
what?
I looked through all of it. I could not figure it out.
What is going on here? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Again. I'm not going to try to be a fronting guy. Hold on. I'm not even in the right place. I'm not going to even pretend that I'm going to that I'm going to have some slick solutions to front end problems. But let's see if something jumps out as. Okay. Yeah, that's why. You didn't add your placeholder up here. So that's all that is. It's just there's nothing here. So it's just the background showing in. So like you didn't add the header row, uh, the column for that part. So if you just put a blank th in here on your view-task.html, then it'll just pop that bad
another
boy
one.
in. Yeah, just another one under status, but with nothing in it, and then it'll just block off that square to make it the full chart. Otherwise, it's gonna look like this, right? Like this is how it looks because you didn't put a top element to it. And which again, maybe this is how you want it to look. That's totally there's nothing. If this was your design, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Okay.
Yeah. See, there it goes. And then
Yeah,
the block comes in there. Yeah, nice, dude. See, it's just seriously like a handful of really small errors, and it's gonna stop the show. So stick into it. Stay patient, man. You got it. Now you got a fully functioning app with both functions and classes that you can write however you like.
Do you know, like, I guess my question is, the AI apps, are there ones that are like watching you as you put this in and then giving feedback?
Not exactly, but you can do. Oh man, I don't have my thing. I'd show you what because I use Copilot that GitHub came up with that Microsoft bot's kind of painted, but like it's okay. And I use it right in PyCharm is the name of the development thing that I use. PyCharm's a little complicated to get started with, so I wouldn't recommend it like for beginning. But it doesn't exactly do that. It does like there's basically just a little chat interface on the side or like in line, so you can highlight a piece of the code and ask specifically about that or have it, and it starts doing sort of suggestive completion. You know what I'm talking about? Where it suggests the part like like predictive text, but it does like way more of it than you're used to. It'll do like an entire paragraph or a page or some shit like that. And you just hit tab and it'll just like fill in the whole thing. And sometimes that's cool. Sometimes you could like, again, to not remember all the syntax, you just get started and it fills in the rest. It knows where you're going. You just hit tab and then just make little adjustments to make sure that it did the exact thing you needed it to do. But, that's kind of the closest that would be to what you're talking about. So it's like it's good and bad. Like sometimes I honestly turn it off because it's annoying. Whereas it's the too like it puts in too much. Where I'm like, no, dude, like that's 5% of what I need, and it would take me way too long to go through and dig out of the trash that you sent me. I'd rather just write it by hand, you know. So it's a balance, man. Like they're good tools. They're really time saving. We couldn't have got to the point we're at in our project without them entirely. Like it would be a lot. We'd be way further behind. But
yeah,
you know, it is something you got to keep an eye on. You can't trust it entirely, right? And it's really important to understand the architecture and like how to plug it in.
Yeah, it's kind of like the new Clippy, right? Like it's
exactly, dude. It's just, I mean, and it's like taking over Stack Overflow, which I feel bad about. Like nobody goes to Stack Overflow to find answers for anything anymore. They just go to ChatGPT, which it just stole all the answers from Stack Overflow. But it's all good though, man. All right.
I appreciate this. This was great. I really do.
Excellent, man. I'm glad I'm glad you got to that point. I'm glad you're sticking it out, dude. So like next time we're gonna go through GitHub and stuff and some more kind of like advanced things, but it's gonna be good. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, cool. I've been GitHub. I understand a little bit, but it's a little confusing to me. So I'm looking forward to that.
It's a goddamn nightmare, dude. The thing's confusing as hell. I'm confused by it all the time. Yeah. So we're gonna try to get to the point where we can use it and it's not as scary, and then go play around with it, and like how to contribute to other people's projects is really the goal of next time. Is to go with the little bit of knowledge you have now and step into that world of actually doing stuff, man, and sending it through GitHub is going to be the ultimate goal. So
yeah, because I've always been more on the ops side. So when I work with technical folks, and I'm the guy that's always like, all right, guys, where's the documentation? Yep. And so I'm the guy that's like, right? Yeah, that's me. So so GitHub is always nice because there's always a little bit of documentation in there. So yeah,
that's cool. And then also, man, it's like now you know how to do this stuff. Have you ever checked out like Sphinx or something like that does automatic documentation? Yeah, dude, absolutely. Like those, plug those into your projects. I've tried messing around with those a couple of times, but again, I'm just like, man, that's a project unto itself. So
yeah. No, I love that. And I try to get it budgeted in. They're like, no, we don't got money for that. So like,
Yeah, see, and those are the places that AI is really going to come in handy, like making documentation and stuff like that. Oh man, and like writing tests. I have AI write tests for me. Oh, that's really good at that. Where I'm like, hey, write tests because that's just. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, write some more. Just keep writing tests. You know,
Yeah.
like the more the better. So, but
that's actually one space that we found is it's really nice. Like it's like you can get one person and then that takes over an entire testing team.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you want those to be verbose and you want to cover like as many possible scenarios. So like you want to be throwing all kinds of stuff at that. Yeah. So just a mass volume of text is that's huge. Be able to generate that in seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it lets me put resources over to user testing. And that's where I'd rather have it.
Yeah, dude, because that's what people are gonna, man. Yeah,
people gonna break it.
Yeah, dude, they're gonna break it. Live users are the best. It doesn't matter how well designed or built it. They're gonna break it in just completely novel ways, dude. One of my favorite examples when we came back from Iraq, we had these Wiley X like, you know, projectile proof glasses, or I forget what they call them, right? But there was some protect your eyes while we were over there, and I kept them for when I came back for like when I was gonna ride my motorcycle and stuff. I'm like, oh, dude, this is great. This ballistic eyewear. It's gonna be awesome, you know. And I let my little 2-year-old at the time play with him. And I'm like, oh, he can't hurt him. And within like half a second, he broke him in half completely, just completely snapped like one. I'm like, yep.
Give it. Yeah, it's wild that that iPro was made of plastic, but it was supposed to be ballistic eyewear, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we had Wiley X's, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's some. Yeah. It's just a little thin piece of plastic. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm hoping that the eye part. I don't know. I didn't get hit in the face with anything, so I guess I was lucky, but. Yeah, I mean, they worked in sunglasses, but yeah, dude, I wasn't real confident in the ballistic piece of it after that, especially.
No, I wore the goggles. I rather.
Oh
like, yeah. I was like, I feel more secure with those.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the thing. You can't replace your eyes either, man. Like, there's just, like you got to protect the eyes. So yeah.
No, they make fun of me, and I'm like, whatever, dude. Like,
yeah, I'm going home with my eyes, bro.
Snowboarding. I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
Sure. Like, yeah. It's like I will when I go home with my vision, you know. Yeah. It's like I won't be doing. I'll not be skipping it because I'm blind. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, as soon as I got back, I got PRK. It was like, it was worth it. It was like, we're good. Like,
nice. All right, dude. Well, I'm gonna hop. Thanks for sticking with it, man. We'll see you Thursday.
Yep, sounds good. Right. Thanks. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Yep. You too. Bye.